I'll move my stuff.
All right, have you guys ever heard this saying, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you? We learned that like in grade school, right? Our kids have learned that, but is that true? No, it's really not, right? And so for the next little bit, we're going to talk about the power of words and the effect that they can have on each one of us. Now, you guys are all leaders. You've decided to come make a difference. And on top of that, most of you are volunteers, right? And that can be difficult because there's always going to be pushback. Since you decided to be of service, have you ever found yourself saying, this is not the plan? Has that ever happened to any of you? Maybe even this morning when you were trying to get here, you found yourself, things didn't go as planned. I think one thing we all have in common while we're here is a lot of times things don't go as planned. We have a plan, we know how we want things to go, and then life happens. So what do? About 20 years ago, I found myself saying that exact same thing when I said, this is not the plan. I was anxiously awaiting the gender reveal of baby number 4. I had my husband with me, and we went to get that ultrasound. And as you know, you lay on the ultrasound tech, they do all the measurements, and they finally said, do you want to know what you're having? I took my husband's hand. I had just one word that I really wanted to hear that day. The ultrasound tech said, you're having a healthy baby boy. Nothing against boys. But that was not quite the word I wanted to hear that day. And in that moment, my husband and I had 2 very different reactions. I had tears start coming out the sides of my eyes. My husband has a big smile, as big as can be. Because I had just found out that was going to be my 4th boy. And as you know, when you're a little girl, you have a plan. You want to have a certain life. And my plan was I wanted 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. Well, it wasn't going as planned. Now, what made my husband and I have different reactions that day? Because we both heard the same word. Words are just words until we put them in our lives and we put meaning to them. We put thought behind them. So in that moment, I started thinking of the things I was going to be giving up. I started thinking about, I'll never be able to take a daughter to dance class and to dance recitals. And that made me feel sad. My husband, though, he's thinking, I don't have to go to dance recitals. He's smiling even bigger, right? I'm thinking about, I won't be able to get a daughter ready for prom or help a daughter get ready as a bride. And that made me feel some loss. My husband, he's smiling even bigger. Another son to teach baseball and football to. This is great. He didn't see a problem. So oftentimes words are just words until we choose what they mean. That's good news for each of us because we get the power to choose the words we put in our lives. Now I want to tell you a little bit more about my family. 5 years later, I had one more, and it was another boy. So I'm a mom of 5 boys. But if I focused on the loss of that, thank you. If I focused on the things I was giving up, I would have missed out on the joy and the good that was happening. So when we find ourselves saying this is not the plan, when we've committed to service, when we're trying to make something happen and things don't go as planned, we have the power to decide where we focus. The one thing we don't have power most often is to change our circumstances. There was nothing I could do about being an all-boy mom that day, nor all these years later. But you can see my family. That was last summer. I've gotten a few daughter-in-laws along the way, and I'm a grandma, and my first was a little granddaughter. So sometimes things work out just differently than how we plan. So how do we go a little more with the flow? How do we find joy in what we experience? Instead of focusing always on the worry and the struggle, what if we can focus on the good? And I believe we can when we focus on our words. The problem that most of us has is we each have a brain. Now, I know that we want a brain, but our brain is a big processor, and it tends to focus on the negative. There's a thing called the negativity bias. We all have it. Our brain tends to focus on the hard, the struggle, the worry, the worst case scenario. The average human being, the National Science Foundation found this study that most all of us have between 16,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. So our brain is just processing thoughts every single day. And the study went on to say that 80% of our thoughts tend to be negative. So most of our thoughts tend to be negative. They tend to be not looking at the good. Well, the interesting thing, another thing we all have in common in our brain is we have what's called the reticular activating system. This reticular activating system is telling our brain what to focus on. So we give it direction. So for example, if I start wanting a new car, let's say I want a new cherry 4Runner, and I think that's the next car I want. When I start focusing on that, guess what I start seeing more of? Cherry red 4Runners. Now, is Toyota making more of those now all of a sudden? No. My brain is attuned to something that I want or that I'm focused on, and so I start to see more of them. So that's how important it is to manage our thoughts, because if we focus on the negative, our brain will then continue to show us more negative and more negative. The great thing is we have the power to redirect. We have the power to change our focus by choosing the words we put on each and every day. So as I go in and speak at schools and as a leadership speaker to companies, I like to help individuals who lead themselves first and then lead others speak their success by finding new words if you're not accomplishing and creating the life you want. You know, I know you guys work with the different principles. And just because the title of principal is there, they are not all the same, right? There's some that are more invested a certain way, some are different this way, and they probably all have their strengths, but you guys have to learn to work with them. You have to learn to work with the different people and find their strengths, and then you work with your strengths. That's what a good leader does. They find what they can offer, and then they build on it. And they learn to focus on the good of others. And that's how we're going to unlock a little bit more positivity in our words as we kind of keep moving forward. Now, how I discovered the power of words in my own life, about 12 years ago, I found myself saying often, this is not the plan. I was stuck in a lot of anxiety, some depression. Some things were not going as I had planned, and I started to just focus on the negative. And it grew and grew and grew. Well, as a mom of baseball boys, I sat at a lot of baseball games. And I had always had an idea. Have you guys ever had an idea? Something that you want to create or something you want to do? I would imagine as you guys are becoming new leaders in PTA, moving forward, you have ideas. You're excited about things. Well, a lot of times when we get excited about changing or doing something new, as soon as that excitement comes, the negativity sets in of like, who am I to do this? How can I do this? I'm not good enough. Things like that, that negative talk that a lot of us will just have in our heads. Well, that's kind of where I was about 12 years ago. And I had this idea to put positive messaging on t-shirts. I'd always wanted to start a business. But then I started to think of, who am I to do that? But luckily for me, this was a big turning point because I decided I had this experience that told me, change your words and you can change your story. I couldn't change much of anything else. I couldn't change where I lived. I couldn't change the situation my life was in, but I could change my focus of my words, and that made all the difference. I started this t-shirt company with my sister-in-law, Erin. It's called Becoming Threads. Let what you wear tell your story. And we would put positive messaging on. Stephen Covey has said this about words. This is how powerful I think words are, and sometimes we underestimate their power, I believe. If used correctly and positively, words can be the first building block of success and inner peace. Isn't that what we're all looking for? But if used incorrectly and negatively, words can undermine even the best of intentions. That's how powerful our words can be. But again, the great thing is that we have the power to choose. We have the power to decide the words we put on. So we're going to work on a few word shifts today, we're going to have a little breakthrough with words, okay? So I hope you guys can have a little fun with me. We're going to experience a little breakthrough with words as leaders, being intentional first with our own words so then we can lead out and help others with their words lead out. Oftentimes, a great leader leads by example. So that's what we want to focus on. So think about your vision, what you envision right now moving forward for this next year or this next few years that you're serving. What do you want to have happen? Because what will happen is things won't go completely as planned. And there'll be detours and struggles, and you'll maybe get new ideas along the way. And that's okay. So if you're willing, I ask everybody to stand up. We're going to do a little breakthrough. I know it's been a long day. This will hopefully keep us all awake as we go into the afternoon. Okay, so really simple. When I tell you, we are going to all raise our finger, our index finger with our right hand, okay? I'll tell you when to do it, so don't do it yet. I'm going to give you some instructions. You're going to raise your hand, index finger, and when I say turn, you're going to turn as far as you can clockwise, and you're going to stop. So it's going to look something like this. Turn. That's as far as I can go. And I'm going to mark with my eye where I get to. And then I'm going to turn back around and put my hand down. Easy enough? Can we all do that? If you need to, spread out just a little bit or try not to hit each other. If your arm can't be completely straight, that's okay. All right, everybody, hand up. Ready? Turn clockwise. Turn. Go as far as you can. Mark it. Come back around. Hand down. Okay, everybody know where they turn. All right, this is how we're going to do a little breakthrough. We have our vision. We want to get a little bit further, but how do we get there? So this time, I don't want you to raise your hand. I want you to just imagine it in your mind, okay? We're going to imagine it first, and we're going to say a few things to ourselves. So this next time when I tell you, you're going to close your eyes. You're not going to lift your hand, but you're going to turn as far as you can and get to that place. But when you hit that place that stops, you're going to say, I can go a foot further. And you're going to visually see yourself go a foot further than where you were. Does that make sense? But we're just doing it in our mind this time. And then I'll say turn back, and you'll visually see yourself turn back, and you'll come back. Does that make sense? So everybody close your eyes. You're not going to really put your hand up, but you're going to visually see yourself putting your hand up with your finger pointing out. You're going to turn. And you get to where you stopped, and you're going to go, I can go a foot further, and you're going to see yourself go a foot further. Do you see it? All right, come back. Great. All right, everybody take a deep breath in and a breath out. Open your eyes, move around just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to try it one more time. We're going to do that same thing, but this time when we close our eyes, we're going to go as far as we could. We're going to say, I can go a foot further, and then I can go 2 feet further than that. We're going to go 3 feet further than where we started. In our minds first. Sound good? All right, I love it. All right, close your eyes. Raise that finger in your mind, and then you're going to turn. Go to that first stop. I can go a foot further, and then go that 2 feet further. You see it in your mind? All right, come back. Okay, shake out one more time. Now this is the test. We are going to actually turn this time and see how far we can go. So this next time, you are going to open your eyes. You're going to lift your finger physically, and you're going to turn and see if you can hit where you did. I believe that we'll all be able to do that. Because when we have a vision and we focus on what we can do, we overcome any objection. Are you ready to try it? Okay, let's try it. Everybody, finger up. Here we go. All right, turn. Keep going. I can go a foot further. I can go 2 more feet. All right, turn back. Who went further? Woo! All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, how did we have that breakthrough? Because the first time I asked you to go as far as you can. So how did we go 3 feet further? Any ideas? Any thoughts?
I moved my feet.
You moved your feet? Okay, you kept turning. When the stop came, you kept going. All right. Breakthroughs happen, you guys, when we have a vision, but then when we get obstacles, we have to focus our thoughts on what we can do. And our brains will empower us to do a little bit more. So that's your first breakthrough with words today, okay? Focusing on what you can do. So as I was discovering the power of words about 10, 12 years ago, you know what I always had wanted to do since I was a little girl? Write a book. But you know what would stop me is I would focus on, well, I don't have a good idea. There's too many books out there in the library. There's not enough room for me to have a book. And so I never tried. Until I decided to stick with my vision and focus on what I can do. And that's how I created the word effect. 7 simple words to create your most beautiful life. And the reason I've created this framework is because I think there's a lot of us out there that feel stuck and not quite reaching our potential. We feel excited to make a difference in the world and to lead and to do something great. But when things don't go as planned and the objections come, which they will always come, we get focused on what we can't do, and it keeps us stuck. So in this book, I identify 7 words. Now, we're not going to be able to talk all about them. After, I do have my book out there, and if you want to come and grab a copy, I'd love to give you one and sell it to you. It's a powerful message that you can use in personal and professional endeavors. And they're all words that you know. The 7 words are acknowledge, ask, accept, abundance, action, appreciate, and aspire. They are all words that help us speak our success, to step into creation and living our best life as we lead. They're our compass. The words we use have an effect. They can have a positive effect or a negative. What words do you put on today? What do you think about? Because what you think about, you bring about. As I was building the t-shirt business, I could actually walk into my closet every day and decide the words I wanted to put on. Maybe today I wanted to put on grateful heart. Maybe keep it simple. But we don't necessarily need a t-shirt, but we do need to practice putting on words. And the words we put in our lives matter. And as leaders, we lead that way. We focus on what we can control, and then we keep moving forward. We become good listeners, and we hear what's going on, and when people are having obstacles, we listen to see if there's a solution that we can help with. So for the next few minutes, I'm just going to touch on a few of these words, because I believe that as we become aware to our words, we can cultivate something beautiful. Now, it is springtime. How many of you guys like to garden? Or be out, having a beautiful flower bed? Yes, right? But what's the thing that we object to that we don't really like during this time? Pulling the weeds, right? Getting sunburned, okay, yeah. What grows faster? The weeds or the pretty flowers? Weeds every single time. Like, I will go out and weed, and I tell you, the next day, it doesn't even look like I touched anything sometimes. They can grow so fast. That's how our negative thoughts can grow. They just grow and swarm and swarm. So we have to be intentional. We have to intentionally leverage our language and become a little bit more mindful of the words we're putting on each day. If you need a t-shirt to do that, get a t-shirt. But if not, find simple ways to put on words. So the first word I want to talk about is acknowledging. And let's first just acknowledge PTA celebrating 100 years. Everybody give a round of applause for being part of something so great. I've spent some time in PTA back at Monte Vista. I worked with Corey, your guys' state president, years ago. She just kept going, though, and I got out. No. She's an amazing lady that does amazing service, but I did find that it's really important to be involved. And it's really important to be an advocate for those kids. But it's hard. Not everybody wants to listen to us. People have different ideas. Not everybody sees our point of view. But we acknowledge and celebrate that, look, we're to 100 years. So something good is happening. And here's to the next. So as we acknowledge, the first thing we want to do is always celebrate our wins or the things that are going well. So when you are meeting with your new group in PTA, whether it's on a school level or a larger level, start by focusing and acknowledging the good. What is going well? Focus there first, because when we focus there, our brains will see more good. But if all we do is focus on all the negative, then it's overwhelming. So first, let's acknowledge the good. Then we need to look at our routines and what we're doing. What are our routines? Now, as a mom of boys, I have sat at so many baseball games. Any of you baseball fans or have sat at a baseball game? Okay, you guys know that the game is a team group. But it's an individual sport in some ways because one by one, you either make a play or you have to get a hit. And so all eyes are on you at times. And sometimes you're going to have to lead out and you're going to have to step up. And other times someone else might, and you might be the support. But what are your routines? You need to acknowledge those. What is creating success for you? What I've noticed with baseball, whether it's Little League or Major League Baseball, because I've sat through some Major League Baseball games along the way, they have routines. They warm up. They practice. You know, putting on words is something we can each practice too. We can practice the words we put on. You don't have to spend a lot of time. I try to keep it really easy, but acknowledge the good. Find a few phrases or key words that you like. Maybe it's a quote. One little saying that I love to put on every single day is, "You're doing better than you think." And I have a little sticker. And I have it somewhere that I can remind myself. When I start feeling discouraged and I see that sticker, I say it to myself, "I'm doing better than I think." What words do you put in your life? What are your routines with that? Because success starts from where we practice. So then when it's time to play the big game, whatever that game might be, we're ready. We're ready to play. So try focusing on what you can do as a team and what you can do as an individual. When we focus on what we can't do, it grows. So turn to your neighbor right now and say, one thing that you can do to make a difference moving forward. Just one. And if your brain starts to object, find something anyway. Okay? Everybody turn to your neighbor. Take turns saying what I can do. What's one thing you can do? Okay. See, when we start focusing on it, we can see other things, right? You guys could probably keep talking. We can do lots of great things. And if I'm not able to do something, I like to think I'm not able to do it yet, but I can try. I can if I practice. I do outreach speaking with Safe Routes Utah and Zero Fatalities also, and we go in and we talk about behavior change. And one of the things that I so admire about so many of you is you're advocates for making a difference. And there are roadblocks. There are things that people are telling you, you can't do this. But you can find solutions by looking at what you can do and listening and stepping forward. Now, we don't always get our way, but we can keep moving forward. And that's how the word effect works. Because it keeps you making decisions to keep finding solutions. Instead of sitting, focusing on what I can't do, we try. We move forward. Now, John F. Kennedy was known as a well-known president. Recently, I had the opportunity to go to Florida, to the Kennedy Space Center. Anybody ever been there before? So it was my first time, and I go walking in, and they kept playing John F. Kennedy's presidential speech that he gave, talking in 1961 about we choose to go to the moon. They made a choice. He led as a leader in 1961 saying this. Well, we know what happened. In 1969, what did happen? We made it to the moon. But if you do research and look at the history from 1961 to 1969, it was not easy. There was setbacks, there was failures. They thought they were close. Things didn't quite go the way they wanted different times. But a good leader stays focused on their vision. And when struggle happens, the second power word in the word effect is ask. We begin to ask different questions. We find different solutions by the words we choose to put in our life. We try different things. For me, the acronym of TRY is today, redirect your thoughts. So as you think about those words, what do you focus on when there's the struggle? Put on words that keep you moving forward. Choose words that keep you finding solutions. Again, I told you that our brain is a powerful tool, but we are in control of it. And the way we stay in control of it is the questions we ask ourselves. Curiosity will fuel anyone's success. When things don't go as planned, we stay curious, and we can ask a different question. We redirect our thoughts for the good, we try, and then we ask how. When I found out that I was going to be an all-boy mom, if all I did was focus on why is this happening to me, I would have missed out on all the good. So we have to focus on how do we make the best of the situation? How do we make the best of what we're given? If you're not able to fill all the service positions you have, how do we still move forward? What does that look like? That's what we want to focus on. We want to focus on how. That curiosity will help our brain find solutions. When we focus on why is this happening, our brain looks for objections and all the problems. So again, it's just the way we decide to direct it. Now, the last word I want to just emphasize is how we change our mindset. Any of you guys remember back in the day those radios that you had to tune just right to get the music to come out? Okay, some of you are as old as I am. I was a little girl, and my best friend Becky and I her name was Becky too. We lived next door to each other, but we had a little clubhouse, and we would go out there and we would try to get the radio just so we could hear our favorite song. Back then, it was Dancing on the Ceiling with Lionel Richie. And we loved when that song came on. But if the radio wasn't tuned just right, it was static. And even if it was tuned there the day before, when we got there, we always had to just tweak it just a little bit. That's how our mindset is each day. As leaders, we have to tune into abundant thinking every single day, looking for the good to see more good. So a simple way to do that is creating statements for yourself. An I am statement is a creative statement. The problem with I am statements is most of us say I am, and then we attach something negative. And we don't understand that what we think about, we're creating. So an I am statement needs to have a positive effect. So recently I created this little book. It's called an Embrace Your Greatness book. And the reason I did this is for simple reminders. So many of us are so full of so many things on our to-do list, we don't need another big project to be overwhelmed. So this is 52 I am statements. Simple words. When you flip it, I am honest. And it has what honest means. So we look at what that word means and we intentionally put it in our lives. I did 52, so I practice one a week. The next is I am kind. I like to put this in my kitchen. You can put it in different places, but the reason I like this is it serves as a simple reminder. So every time I walk by it, I'm tuning into abundant thinking, just a little bit. Despite what happens in my day, I tune into abundant thinking. Now, you don't need a flip book or a t-shirt to do this. You can get a little 3x5 card if you want. You can find your greatness and embrace it by becoming intentional to the words you choose to put on. As you move forward, as you serve, you can choose leading first with yourself and then leading with others. I have some of those Embrace Your Greatness books out there as well. But if that's not for you, find those words and just intentionally decide how to put them on. Make it your screensaver. But tune into abundant thinking every day. Just practice just a little. George Lucas, who we know is well known for creating Star Wars, has said, always remember your focus determines your reality. So where are you focused? If you're not creating and finding the things that you want in life, you can change. You can put on different words. First, we become aware to them. We acknowledge them. We ask different questions, and then we tune into abundant thinking as we continue moving forward. So your words really have power. They make a difference. What you're here to do, serving in the PTA and advocating for safety and for success of our students, it matters. It really makes a difference. But sometimes it feels like nobody's listening. And it can feel hard. But I want you to know that your words truly make a difference. And if you hit roadblocks or obstacles, you can step forward. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to have a free ebook. It's called The One Word Way. It's 3 simple words, focusing on what we can do instead of what we can't, how instead of why, and then there's one more in there for you. And to get this free ebook, all I ask is you just go here and give me a little feedback, because your words matter to me. And so if you go here and fill this out and review this presentation, and then I will just send you an email with this One Word Way. It's a free PDF. You can use it with your family. You can use it with those you lead in PTA. You can use it in any way, because we all have access to these words. Sometimes we just need the compass to direct us to the power of them to make a difference. Because if you want to change your story, if you want to create with more intention, start by choosing your words. Start by practicing. When I was in 5th grade, I sat in Mrs. Linton's class, and she handed out a packet of words. And she invited all of the students to be a part of the 5th grade spelling bee. I started thumbing through that packet that day, and I saw words that I didn't even know. But she started talking about winning and getting a trophy. And you know where my thought went? I want to do that. So I took that packet home. Even though Mrs. Linton said you need to practice, I thought, I don't want to practice. I took my packet home and I said, Mom, I want to win the 5th grade spelling bee. And my mom said, that's great. I think you have all the potential if you practice. Oh, I was hearing that word again, practice. It takes a little bit of effort on my part. But remember earlier we talked about routines? We have to have a routine of intentionally putting on language that makes a difference in our lives. Well, I tried to negotiate with my mom and say, can't I just go and be on the spelling bee and win? Any of you moms out there know that to be good at anything with our kids, we help them practice. But what are we practicing? Are we putting in practice? It's sometimes easier to help someone else practice than ourselves. Reluctantly, my mom was so encouraging, but I reluctantly said, okay, I'll practice. But she taught me that you play like you practice, that the words that you practice, when it's time to play, you might be ready. So every day after school, I got my packet of words, and for 15 minutes, my mom and I would sit across the table, and we would practice words, and I'd get them wrong. I didn't know them, but I continued to practice. Well, 6 weeks later, it was the big day. There was 12 of us on the stage at Westvale Elementary that day. And one by one, we would go to the mic. If we got the word wrong, we'd sit down. Eventually, it got down to just 2 of us, me and my 5th grade crush, Jared McDougall. Of course, adding a little more pressure, right? But my hands were sweaty. My knees were knocking together when Jared got the word wrong. And I knew what that meant. All eyes were on me. I just needed to get one more word right. They said, Becky, the judge, invited me to step forward and spell confident. As I took a deep breath forward and I was preparing to spell, even though I was nervous to do something new in front of people, I took a deep breath and I realized I had practiced. I had practiced those words and I was ready. I was ready to play. So I took a deep breath. Confident. C-O-N-F-I-D-E-N-T. Confident. I got it right. And that was my claim to fame. The only thing I've ever won, 5th grade spelling bee. But it was because I practiced. Now, there was a lot of others that practiced. Luck was maybe on my side that day. But in that moment, I had set time aside each day to achieve my goal by intentionally practicing the words I put in my life. So as you step forward with this new year, with your vision and your excitement, you're going to have obstacles along the way. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be things that you can't quite figure out today. But I invite you to acknowledge the good that is happening. Focus on what you can do. Practice that. I invite you to practice asking how and continuing to try, redirecting your thoughts to look for the good. And then tune into that abundant thinking. Because as you tune into abundant thinking, you will make the difference that you are here to make. You will lead yourself first, and as good leaders, then you will take the step to lead others. Leveraging your language to speak your success, to identify your talents and your abilities. But it does take practice. I wish you all the luck moving forward. Remember that your words matter. Keep putting on intentional words. Practice it, and you will be confident as you lead too. Thank you.